welcome to the show. Well, it's that time of year. You've seen the signs popping up on the road signs, political signs. It's a big primary here in May where 2 of the county commissioners are running to retain their office. They have lots of challengers. I've managed to wrangle all of them to get on the show at one time or another. So this is part of that series. And today I am delighted to have with me Commissioner Stan Primozich and Commissioner Mary Starrett. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invite.
I know you're busy. The list of your duties is daunting, and I'm glad that you're able to be here. Well, this is an opportunity to talk about why people should return you to office, but I just wanted to start out with having people get to know you personally a little bit better.
Right.
And Mary, let's just start with you. Would you tell us your life history? Your life, you give us your whole story.
I don't think you want to hear the whole story, and I don't think you have time. But I'll give you the short.
Yes.
I'll give you the short version.
Where were you born?
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I went to college in Boston, and I worked at local affiliate television stations around the country on the East Coast and the West Coast. I came to Portland in 1980. Was asked by KATU to do a new program that they were starting, and thought I'd be here for a couple of years, but I fell in love with the area, and I've been here ever since, and wound up living in Clackamas County, Multnomah County, and as I say, the best county is Yamhill County, and there's no comparison.
Oh, that's great. Let me back up a little bit. In grade school, maybe in high school, what kind of things just drew your attention? What did you do besides study hard and get good grades?
Well, I was on the speech and debate team.
Okay.
And so I competed at the high school and the college level. I was very involved in my father was involved in politics, and I was involved sort of at a grassroots level, and was just very interested in different concepts regarding public policy and things like that. So, but did not come to it till, after the first career.
Now, you've been on hundreds, if not thousands, of television shows. As host, as newscaster, as all kinds of different roles. Have you got a good TV story for us?
I have lots of TV stories. I can't even begin to name one, but yeah, we've interviewed, in the course of interviewing presidents and governors and senators and movie stars. And
tell us about one or two.
Oh, well, there's everybody you could imagine. I mean, this was long before they were considered famous. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on the program in the morning, and Fabio was on. That was one of the ones that everybody talks about, Fabio and Jimmy Carter and George Bush Sr. and Oprah. Interviewed Oprah 3 different times, and that was interesting. And just got to interview pretty much everybody who wrote a book, came through on book tours back when that's what they used to do, was travel to promote their books. So got to interview politicians and authors and movie stars, and it was a good educational experience.
So politics runs in the family, and speech and debate prepared you for that. What did your dad, what was his office?
Well, he wasn't in office. He was just involved in local politics. My father was an engineer, and he worked for IBM in New York, and he did politics on the side. And he worked with, state and local politics, and it was something that we saw growing up.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Stan, your turn. You were born in
I was born in
town.
about far east in Montana as you can get, in a place called Sidney, Montana. It came to life here a few years ago because of the coal. They were able to start producing oil out of the coal up in that part of the country and became quite popular. But I lived there a very brief time, approximately 6 months.
Okay.
The Second World War was getting in full force, and my father was working for the government at the time, and he was in what they called a critical area, so they took him to Boeing to work there, and so the family was moved off to Renton, Washington, where my mother was one of those rosy riveters working at Boeing also.
Is that where you met? No, no, no.
Oh, no.
This was back in Montana, right.
They met in Montana.
So she went to work in the factory.
She went to work in the factory, and Dad was in the offices, and we lived in Renton, and it was, we were there until the end of the war. And then my father was very entrepreneurial and headed off to Billings, Montana, where he bought a small neighborhood grocery store. And Triple S Market, stand, shop, and save. And he put in a big cold locker and started butchering his own beef, so he sold fresh meats there. It was, I kind of grew up in that frame of reference, and then a terrible auto accident in 1950 caused my dad to want to leave the area. His father and my uncle were both killed in that car wreck, so Dad was having a hard time adjusting. So we moved off to San Fernando, California, where Dad again bought another grocery store in North Hollywood. And I don't know if you remember Charlie on old Western shows, big mustache, usually played a villain, but he owned a drugstore on the corner, Santa Monica Boulevard and Fairfax. Was it Fairfax? Anyway, his drugstore was where all these old-time character actors hung out and had coffee in the afternoon, and he let me sell papers on the corner. And one day, some guy tried to push me off the corner selling the papers, and out came Charlie. That was my corner. So anyway, that was just a little sidelight. But from North Hollywood, then we moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and that's really where I claim as home, because that's where I graduated from high school, went off to Eastern Washington College from there, worked in that area until 1963, when I was right there to be drafted. So I joined the Navy, and the day I raised my hand and said I do to the Navy, my draft notice arrived at our house. So I was in the Navy, went to Vietnam the first time in 1964, landed in Chu Lai. I was on an LST, which meant we spent all of our times up the rivers and on the beaches of Vietnam, 64, 65, and 66. And then had the opportunity in 2007, when my youngest daughter was teaching high school in Thailand, I went and took her to all the places I was during the war. It was quite an interesting experience to go back to Vietnam in 2007 and hear them tell us about the American War, because that's what they call it. So it was an interesting experience. So, but there were a lot of places in between from that time. I got married, had 6 children, moved to McMinnville in 1984 from Cottonwood, Arizona, where I owned a men's clothing store and an ice cream parlor next door to each other. And came to McMinnville after I had joined the Prudential as a financial planner, and spent 35 years in that occupation here. Prior to that, I left out that 10 years I spent with J.C. Penney Company in district management, which was quite an experience, and had the opportunity on 4 separate occasions to drive J.C. and his, at that time, J.C. Penney was 89, and he had his child bride of 65. And whenever they would come to Phoenix, whoever happened to be in our district office would be assigned to go pick up the boss and take him out to the Camelback Inn, where he stayed whenever they were in Phoenix. So I had the opportunity then to chauffeur him, and he was quite a character. Even at 89, he had a twinkle in his eye, and I had met him when I was 10 years old, and my dad was managing a shoe department for Penny's, and he had come in, and I met him then, but this was several years later. Anyway, stories like that.
That's
but it was very interesting at that time, and then moved to resigned from the Penny Company, bought the clothing store and then the ice cream parlor, and then came to McMinnville with our 6 children. And it's been an amazing opportunity in one of the greatest places in the world to raise a family and to be engaged in the community, which I have tried to do in a number of ways. 24 years on the McMinnville School District Board of Directors and serving on the Oregon School Board Association Board. Having 6 children, I had a vested interest in the education in our community, and that gave me a real, I'd always, even back in Phoenix, I started a school program a community program, because we lived close to a high school. Our children were in elementary school, close to a high school with a big drug problem. So I brought parents together and we formed a community where we could have some after-school outreach and hopefully make a small difference, and drive drugs away from our elementary school campus. But so that gave me a real taste for being involved in community service. That's been a big part of my life. My dad was that way, and I kind of picked that up, I think. And then after 35 years, I started backing down from my financial services business, and the 2 positions that were up for term limiting out gave me the opportunity to run for this position. I really had no idea, like I said, the breadth and depth of being a county commissioner, but it has been one of the most engaging opportunities in my life. I've really, truly enjoyed it. People say, "You what?" And I really do. It's very energizing. No 2 days are the same. I mean, every day you go to the office and there's new challenges, new opportunities, and new catastrophes. But it's just really, we have an amazing staff of people over there that I've just been enjoying it very much.
All right. Well, thanks for the tour.
Yeah.
That was fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into, I'm curious about what you have learned over your past few years as commissioners. Maybe let's just put it this way. Let's start with what surprised you, Mary. You got this job, and you obviously hadn't been a commissioner before. There's lots to learn. So I imagine there was something that you hadn't expected. Can you tell us maybe what really opened your eyes, maybe?
Well, I think a lot of people have a real distrust of government, and rightly so, both at the federal and the state and the local level. But what I found in Yamhill County, as Commissioner Primozich was saying, is that there really is a dedication to customer service. That by and large, we have excellent employees, department heads, and they really do work for excellence in how they deal with the public. I was expecting that there was going to be this huge swamp that needed to be drained, and that is not the case. As I said, we have excellent employees, and we also are known statewide and nationally for some of the innovations that are done in our community. Specifically, our Yamhill County Coordinated Care Organization is a way that we, and there are 16 of them around the state, but what happened in Yamhill County was a group of community stakeholders got together, and our Health and Human Services Director with some other medical directors got together and figured out how are we going to how are we going to administer Medicaid funds to our vulnerable populations? And they put together a CCO, a Coordinated Care Organization, and what we are doing in our county is not being done anywhere else. And that is, we're starting with early learning, and we're starting with all of the different health and behavioral issues and mental health and addiction issues, and we're trying to figure out a way to deal with the whole person. So that is being now acknowledged at the state level as being one of the finest examples of how local government can come in and take a state program and make it its own, which is why I was really encouraged when, we've got a terrible, terrible problem with our foster care system. And I was encouraged to see that there was some buy-in in the local community for a concept that I have, which is to bring child welfare back under the auspices of the county. And we're going to be working on perhaps a legislative fix for this. As you know, Department of Human Services got a scathing audit from the Secretary of State's office that said this, no matter how much money they throw at child welfare, it's not getting fixed. Our foster parents are leaving the system, and our kids are the ones who are suffering. So what can we do locally? And I think we're addressing that. There are a number of different ways we can do that, and I'm committed to finding a way, as I said, whether we have to deal with it legislatively or collaboratively, so that we have more of an avenue to help our folks who are dealing with some terrible problems as foster parents, as bio parents, and our foster kids are the ones who are suffering. So I'm really invested in that.
All right, thank you. Stan, same question for you. What surprised you? What kind of maybe delighted you or even disappointed you? What happened?
Well, I came into the job, as I indicated, without a real full understanding of the breadth and depth. And as I started to learn, number one, work with the people that I would be working with, I was really amazed at, number one, the professionalism, and number two, the dedication. Those are two things that just really stood out to me. I hadn't really engaged with the local government that much up until then. Having worked in corporate America, I had seen seen some things that I would not want to see replicated in Yamhill County, and fortunately, I didn't. The area of liaison that I was first assigned to was the Public Works, and working with the Public Works Director, started to get engaged with the various committees that make that up. RIAC, which is our Road Improvement Advisory Committee, one of the strongest committees I've served on. These are all volunteers that do an amazing job of helping us identify those roads that we want to put extra efforts into, help us to identify the next few miles to be paved. As I indicated earlier, we're out of 800 miles of road, we've done 270 miles of those that we have repaved or paved from gravel to pavement in the last 9 years. This year, we will add 30 more miles to that. At $100,000 a mile, you can see that we cannot do a lot every year, but we do every bit that we can. In Yamhill County, we created a program. There are a lot of roads where you have very, very low travel, a few miles or a few average daily miles on that road. So it's very far down the list of roads that would get paved. But if the residents of that road are serious about getting it paved, we will work with them. We will prepare the road for blacktop. They then will contract with a paving company to pave it, and we will then accept the road back for maintenance. And so we've had several miles of road, well, not several, but we've had about 6 miles of road so far that have been done just that way. And to everybody's satisfaction and happiness, we have a very, very strong wine industry in Yamhill County. 75% of all the wine grapes grown in the state of Oregon are grown right here in our county. And we now have more wineries than Sonoma. So we are, in fact, in 2016, Yamhill County was the wine region of the world. So we are being recognized. And so our wineries have an interest in making certain that people coming to this county have some pleasant roads to drive on. Actually 4 of the wineries now have taken advantage of our CRIP program to help pave the roads to their wineries. This isn't the county doing this. They're putting the money up to do it, but and we want to work with them as much as we can. So we would have to go out and take care of that gravel road. We go out and prep it, and they do it. So that's an exciting program that we're working on here. Veterans Affairs, obviously being a veteran, those are very, very important things to me. And I recently asked Commissioner Olson to start doing the local Veterans Affairs work. I am the co-chair of the Association of Oregon Counties Veterans Committee, and I'm the vice chair of the National Association of Counties Veterans, and I'm very active at both the state and national level in advocating for veterans' needs and concerns. I'm also the chair of a 4-county area workforce development program, and 2 weeks ago was in Washington, D.C. working on workforce development. And one of the issues is connecting veterans to jobs. There's a lot of skills developed during your military service, and veterans have a hard time relating those skills back to the local community, and what jobs would those skills prepare them for. And this is something that's being worked on now very intensively at the national level to take that skill, connect it to a job in a local area, see what other certification or education might be needed to elevate that position. There's programs developed to do this and help them to then align their previous skills, their previous experiences, their previous education with specific jobs, and then tell them what school in their area would help them be better prepared, and then it prints out a resume for them. So there's a lot of things that's very exciting about workforce development, and that's not just for vets, but there is a real strong emphasis on the veteran side, but we're doing that across the workforce spectrum. We've got a number of people who, that is the problem. Their job went away due to a number of different reasons, but now they don't know how to connect the skills they already have to jobs that are out there. And so that's part of what we're doing in the workforce development process at the 4-county area that I'm working with, but statewide and at the federal level. So those are just a couple of the things that I'm very, very passionate about. And I think that if we can develop our workforce better, we have homeless issues that are significant, and what we call affordable housing, which I haven't had anybody be able to really identify what that means, because it's different no matter where you go in the state of Oregon. But right here in Yamhill County, there's different terms for that. And we need workforce housing. And so these are things that are critical to me because of all the areas that I am currently working in. It comes back to, in my economic development, where I do drive that piece for the county. When I structured a Vitality Summit a couple of years ago, we had it in Newburgh. We had 93 people pay $20 to come and listen to us tell them that we have to do something about this. Out of that, we had a second Vitality Summit focused on really the workforce development, transportation, workforce housing, land use issues, because all of these things are interconnected and they all make a difference as far as how we're going to attract and retain new business. And so then the county, working with my fellow commissioners, we put together the resources to hire an economic development company, SEDCOR, and that's their job, is to bring and help retention of businesses in our community. We had an opportunity to work with them prior to hiring them from a grant that they worked on that was very specific to a couple of issues, but now they've hired a person who's going to be housed right here in Yamhill County and going to be working on helping us take all of the wonderful things that we have here and really develop our economics through bringing new businesses in. And the things I just mentioned, transportation, workforce development, affordable housing, all of these things are critical to somebody who might be moving their business here, because they need to know that their employees are going to be taken care of if they move them in here. So there's just a lot of exciting things, Ken, that when I get started talking, I can go on forever. I'll take the rest of your show, but we've got just a number of things that we're working on right now, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
All right. Well, you know, Stan, that we only do have a few more minutes left. So I do want to ask Mary, what are some strengths of the county that we can be proud of? Maybe in your segment, you're over health. You address health and human services. That's one of your main areas. What are some things that are working well? You've indicated some concerns you have. What are some things that are working well that you feel like we can be proud that the county is doing? And then maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about the youth outreach that's being done.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think that we should be very proud about the fact that Yamhill County takes a look at people who suffer from addiction issues and works not to incarcerate them, but to lead them to perhaps a diversion program where they can learn job skills, get their kids back from child welfare, and learn how to be independent and live a clean and sober life. And we do that through the programs that we have set up and contracts with our nonprofit faith-based programs like Provoking Hope and Lutheran Community Services. So it's an interesting combination of government and nonprofits. Oftentimes the nonprofits, and I think most of the time, the nonprofits can do jobs that we can't do and do them better than we can. And that is basically it. For instance, with Provoking Hope, there are people who used to be right where their clients are now. They were struggling with addiction. These are recovering addicts who are considered certified recovery mentors who are now taking folks who are in the depths of the disease of addiction and working with them and with the courts to get through recovery courts, get their kids back, live clean and sober lives. We've got housing for them, transitional treatment and recovery homes. So we've got Health and Human Services working with the jail, working with the sheriff's office, working with corrections, and working with the courts. We also have, through Health and Human Services, a variety of programs that deal with every single aspect of why a person might be dealing with criminality or addiction issues. So we're taking folks who have these issues and we're wrapping services around them, from kids to older people, to find out what we can do and to lift them up that way. So there's that I think we can be proud of, and I think our county does it with a great partnership with the nonprofits in our community. And I don't think that's being done in too many other places.
All right, well, great. We have 3 minutes left. Now I'd like to ask you both, and I'll start with you, Mary, why you should be returned to office. Let's just do politics right now. This is your chance to say, vote for me again. And so go, and we've just got a minute and a half, and I'll give each a minute and a half. All right, so go ahead.
I don't think of this as of course, there are politics involved with this position, but I don't think of this in terms of politics. I think of it in terms of what we do for the people in this community that used to be done by the families, the churches, and the communities. And Yamhill County, because of its size and because of the commitment of its employees, is able to be more flexible and actually do better work because of what we've determined to do in this community. So I would like to say that I'd like to continue to stay the course, not only fiscally by keeping an eye on everybody's money, but also making sure that that money goes a long way, and it does through our partnerships with our nonprofits. And I think that the track record speaks for itself, and I think the work that we've done in the last few years has really borne some wonderful fruit, and I'd like to be able to continue to do that.
All right, thank you. Stan, take it home.
Well, I'll tell you right now, as I indicated earlier, this is one of the most energizing jobs that I've had, and it's very, very rewarding. One of the reasons I think that the county should retain me, they have a large investment in Stan Primozich. It took me a while to get up to speed, and now I'm engaged in a number of activities. I've made the connections and relationships. One of the things people ask me, what do you do as a Yamhill County Commissioner? And I thought about that for a little bit, and then I said, well, I'm a pollinator. I go to meeting after meeting after meeting. I meet and build relationships with a variety of people, and I can connect people to people. Recently, I had the opportunity to work with Jill Reese from the USDA. They had some money for a grant. I connected her with Dr. Harder at George Fox University, who was looking for some money for an engineering program he's working on. Jill and Bob got together, and now we just found out a few days ago we got that grant, and so Dr. Harder is going to be able to move forward with that project. So that is the ability that by making these connections and making these relationships, I can serve the people of Yamhill County so much better, and I can expose the county to things that haven't been done before. So I'm excited about retaining this position and continuing to do work. I'm passionate about Yamhill County. I've been a resident for quite a while. Like I said, raised 6 children here. I currently have 14 grandchildren, and this is home, and I want it to be the best possible place it can be, and I'm going to work hard to keep it that way. So,
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Ken.
thank you.